Welcome back to Goodnight Lighthouse. I'm Miss Dorothy, and I'm here to read you another story. And I think you're going to like tonight's book. It's about school and school teachers. And that's one of our favorite things. I love when you come to school. I love when you go to school. Your teachers probably love when you come to school. But tonight is a book about somebody who's not usually at school, but comes to be a helper. And things go a little wacky, because this is called The Wacky Substitute. The Wacky Substitute. You know what a substitute is? That's somebody who comes in and teaches your class when your teacher can't be there. Well, this guy comes to teach class and things get a little wacky. I wonder why. I wonder what happens to make him so wacky. We're going to need to get into this book and find out. Are you ready to go for a little trip to school with Miss Dorothy and the Wacky Substitute? Good. I need you to sit up and listen up, because here we go. The Wacky Substitute by Sally Derby. Illustrated by Jennifer Herbert. One morning, Mr. Worth's glasses slipped off his nose and fell into the frying pan. The lenses shattered. "My glasses!" cried Mr. Worth. "What will I do now?" Oh no, he lost his glasses. He probably can't see very well without them. Just then the phone rang. Mr. Worth picked up a banana and held it to his ear. The phone kept ringing. Realizing his mistake, he dropped the banana and fumbled for the receiver. "Here, Worth, teacher speaking," he said. "Mr. Worth, this is Benjamin Carter, principal of the Maryvale School. Our kindergarten teacher is sick. We'd like you to substitute today." In spite of his broken glasses, Mr. Worst agreed to teach, but he couldn't see very well. "Here, puppy, I have to leave," he said to his cat, giving her a bone. "Be a good kitty," he told his puppy. He threw the puppy a catnip mouse. He's giving the dog what the cat should have and the cat what the dog should have, because he can't see. Then, mistaking a dish towel for his scarf, he wrapped around his neck and started off for Maryvale School. Along the way, he tipped his hat politely to several snowmen. He was saying hello to the snowmen. He couldn't see, and he thought they were people. When Mr. Worst got to school, he walked down the hall, trying to read the names on the door. "This looks right," he told himself, opening the door to the custodian's closet. "Mr. Carter, good to see you again," he said to a mop. Fortunately, Miss Doggleby was passing by at that moment. "You want Mr. Carter?" she asked. "Right this way." "Excuse me," Mr. Worst told the mop. "I hope I didn't disturb your class." He still thinks the mop is a person. In the kindergarten room, the boys and girls were already hanging up their coats and hats and scarves. Mr. Worst hung up his coat and dish towel. A cushion on Mrs. Darling's chair looked like the attendance book, so he picked it up and held it close to his nose. "I can't read this without my glasses," he told the class. "We'll just skip attendance. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mr. Worst. It's spelled W-U-E-R-S-T and pronounced Worst. I'm really the best, though, so you can call me Mr. Best if you like." This was an old joke of Mr. Worst, but it was new to kindergarteners, so they bust into giggles. Mr. Worst walked over to the gerbil cage. "What a lot of fur caps," he said. "Haven't seen one of these since I was a boy." He opened the cage and reached in. 12 gerbils jumped out. While the boys and girls chased the gerbils over tables and under desks, Mr. Worst worried about story time. How would he be able to read? He would just skip the story, he decided. He let all the animals out of their cage because he thought they were hats. At 10 o'clock, Mr. Worst announced, "Time for snacks." "Not yet," shouted the boys and girls. "Story time comes first." "Oh, yes," said Mr. Worst. "Who would like to read today?" You read, we listen, the children told him. Mr. Worst picked up a book from Mrs. Darling's desk. He looked at the picture on the cover. Oh, good. It's the 3 pigs. I won't need my glasses for that, he thought. That's not the 3 pigs. Look at that book he's picking up. It says the 3 puppies. Once upon a time, he began, 3 little pigs decided to go out into the world and seek their fortunes. Not pigs, puppies, cried the boys and girls. You're reading the wrong story. Is that so? Said Mr. Worst. Well, what happens to them? The children told Mr. Worst what happened in the story, while he kept turning the pages and nodding his heads and saying, I see, although he really couldn't see, of course. Snack time came. Mr. Worst opened the refrigerator and started handing out containers. Oh, no, the children protested. That's Mrs. Darling's yogurt. You don't say. Well, why don't we just get your snacks yourselves, Mr. Worst suggested. So although Tuesday was milk day, some children took orange juice and some took milk, and that made everyone happy. Uh-oh, they got to pick their own snacks. At rest time, Mr. Worst pulled down the window shades. The kindergartners put their heads on their desk. Mr. Worst put his head on his desk, too. He was so tired from trying to see all morning. He fell asleep. He began to snore. It's nap time. The children are awake, and the teacher is sleeping. That's not the way it's supposed to be. One after another, the kindergartners lifted their heads to see what the noise was. When they realized Mr. Worst was asleep, they tiptoed around the room, getting out blocks and crayons and clay and toy cars and paint and the gerbils. They had a lovely time, but they were not doing what they were supposed to do because it's nap time. But it couldn't last, of course. At 12 o'clock, the bell rang, and Mr. Worst woke up with a start. What's that? It's my alarm clock, he cried. It's time for us to go, the children explained. Goodbye, then, said Mr. Worst. You have been a fine class. That's not how we do it. You have to line us up and take us out to the bus, said the children. Is that right? Well, follow me. Mr. Worst led the class through the halls and out the door. The wrong door! He led them right to a hook and ladder truck. Here we are, all aboard, said Mr. Worst. With whoops and hollers, the children climbed on the truck. They swung from the ladders and blew the horn and rang the bell. The firemen came running. What a shame. I thought I was seeing my first red school bus, Mr. Worst said, when the fireman pointed out his mistake and led everyone back to the waiting bus. Come back again, Mr. Worst, the children called. You're the best substitute we've ever had. Thank you kindly, said Mr. Worst. He shook hands with the bus driver. Mr. Carter, great school you have here. Fine boys and girls. The bus driver gave Mr. Worst a funny look and shook his head. Back in the kindergarten room, Mr. Worst put on his coat and wrapped his dish towel around his neck. He started down the hall. Goodbye, all. I'm off to the eye doctor's, he said, and he opened the door to the girls' bathroom. Poor Mr. Worst. He had a very rough day, but it looks like at the end he got his glasses back. Oh, poor Mr. Worst. He had a really rough day because he lost his glasses and he had to go be a substitute. The kids really did help him out, but it was kind of a crazy day. But I like how much they liked him and how they said he was the best, not the worst. And look, it looks like he got his glasses back and now the cat's playing with them. He really needs to keep track of his glasses so he can see better the next time he's a substitute. This was a fun book. I'm so thankful that we found it and read it together because that was a fun thing to read. Now you need to remember when a substitute comes into your classroom that you should be a helper just like the kids were a helper to Mr. Worse. Even if your teacher has her glasses, you still should be a helper, because being a helper to a substitute makes everybody's day go a lot better. Now listen, that's all we have for today. We need to get to bed so we can get up and go to school tomorrow and help our teachers or help our substitutes or help our mom and dad, whoever's there to teach you. You need to be a helper for them, and that'll make everybody's day better. And one of the best things you can do to a teacher, a substitute, a mom and dad, a grandma and grandpa, obey, and obey right away. That makes everybody's day better. And be sure you come back and see Miss Dorothy, because I'm going to be sitting right here ready to read another book to you. Bye!